Hello, I'm Gabriela Borrego, and this is my psychoanalysis on Edward Theodore Gein. The birth of Leatherface. Ed Gein was born on August 27th, 1906. He was born in Plainfield, Wisconsin, to his mother Augusta and father George Philip. He had a rough childhood as his father was an alcoholic and his mother was verbally abusive to both him and his brother. Although Augusta was abusive, Ed still seemed to idolize her. His mother constantly taught him about the evils of the world, as she was a very religious individual, and she also depicted women in a very negative light. Ed Gein and his brother were only allowed to attend school and come straight home after it ended. This did not allow Ed to form friendships and, in turn, did not let him have a normal childhood. A life of tragedy. After finishing his schooling and experiencing constant bullying, Ed decided to go back home to live with his mother once again. Shortly after, on April 1st, 1940, his father passed away due to a heart attack. This left Ed and his brother alone with their abusive mother. 4 years later, a mysterious fire broke out at their home, causing Ed's brother to die. Police ruled it an accident, but saw that the body was badly bruised, but they never questioned anybody. On December 29th, 1945, Augusta Gein passed away as a result of a stroke and left Ed all alone. Disturbing actions. Following his mother's death, Ed preserved her room and belongings exactly how she had left them. He began showing interest in the female anatomy and taught himself taxidermy. In 1947, Ed began robbing the graves of women buried in the Plainfield Cemetery. He would then remove their organs inside the body, and return the rest of the body back to the cemetery. Once he got arrested, he claimed that he did not believe he committed these crimes as he was in a daze when they occurred. By the 1950s, he would not return the bodies he stole and instead took them back to his house to perform taxidermy on them. Horrible acts of murder. On December 8th, 1954, Ed murdered his first victim by the name of Mary Hogan. He also admitted to killing Bernice Worden. They both had a resemblance to his mother. He continued to commit these unspeakable acts to an unknown amount of women. Although he admitted to killing these two women, he was deemed insane at the time of his crimes and then sent to a mental hospital. He later died at the age of 78. Psychoanalysis. As we know, Freud's theory of psychoanalysis focuses on the individual's childhood and how this affects their overall personality. By looking at Ed Gein, we can see that his parents are to blame for not providing a healthy environment for him to grow up in. Due to the obsession Ed had with his mother, we can say he was fixated in the phallic stage, which is the third stage of psychosexual development. Freud discusses this stage as being the introduction of the Oedipus conflict. This involves the male child to have a sexual love for his mother and an aggressive rivalry with his father. We can see that because Ed idolized his mother throughout his whole life, but saw his father in the negative light painted by his mother. We can also see that Ed did not have a healthy balance between his impulses, the id, and his conscience, the superego. He even went as far to say that he did not realize he was grave robbing because he was in a daze. It can be inferred he was referring to the id. By looking at Ed, we know he did not have many personal relationships, whether it be friendships or love/sexual relationships. This can be attributed to his mother and her strictness. We know that he used many defense mechanisms, one of them being displacement, because although he idolized his mother, he still had some anger for her strictness and her verbal abusiveness. So he projected that onto his victims. In other words, less threatening individuals. He also used denial. He denied that he had anything to do with the grave robberies when he was caught. He stated that he was not aware of his actions. In other words, he repressed these crimes he committed because it was too painful to acknowledge. Finally, the crimes that Ed committed show that he placed the death instinct higher than the life instinct. Eros promotes love, while Thanatos promotes aggression. Freud states that the death instinct focuses on the conflict over expressing sexuality, and we can specifically see this with Ed because he had no loving or sexual relationships until he decided to engage in these unspeakable acts.